Hi, this is Netcat here, and I was just watching the Book of Boba Fett episode 5, and I've seen that a lot of people have really liked this episode. Unfortunately, I don't really agree. So I thought I'd make this video and explain why I don't agree. Yeah, and maybe help people understand my point of view. My first reason, and the thing that stood out to me the most while watching Book of Boba Fett episode 5, was the fact that Boba nor any of the other cast were even in it except Fennec at the very, very end. And no matter how good this episode was, it would still not be a good Book of Boba Fett episode because it completely ignored the storyline that was being made in Book of Boba Fett. And instead, it grafted on an episode from The Mandalorian. The way that I would explain this is that if I were to have my wife watch this, who's seen all of Mandalorian in season 1 and season 2, but none of Book of Boba Fett, she would understand everything that happened in this episode, no problem. However, if you were to get someone who hadn't seen any Mandalorian, but had seen episode 1 through 4 of Book of Boba Fett, it then, and they would be completely lost. Throughout the entire thing, it references Grogu, it has the armor, they do the creed, they talk about the Beskar spear. Everybody in this episode is from Mandalorian up until the very end when Fennec says, "Hi, I want to hire you for Boba." I'm sorry, but this is not an episode of a Book of Boba Fett. I believe this is an episode of The Mandalorian. If you're currently watching Peacemaker, this would be the equivalent of after 4 or 5 episodes of Peacemaker, and we've gotten to know the squad that Peacemaker's with and everything, suddenly cutting away to have an entire episode that focuses on Bloodsport and his kid and everything wherever the hell he is, and then and then suddenly at the very end of the episode, we'd have Bloodsport get hired or to come help Peacemaker, and that be the only link to the Peacemaker show at all. Again, that this wouldn't be a good episode of Peacemaker. Might be a good episode of Bloodsport, but not Peacemaker. And as an episode of The Mandalorian, and I feel the need to mention that this is only a 7-episode series for Book of Boba Fett. So, one full episode of The Mandalorian in this series means that 1/7 of the show about Book of Boba Fett is not about the story presented in the Book of Boba Fett. I see this as a problem. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, it's time for us to delve more into the episode itself, for me to get into some of the more nitpicky aspects of my problems with it. So, without any more ado, here we go.
I see him right now.
That's not me.
So, in the first scene, we have Mando showing up at the meatpacking area, where he ends up having a back and forth with his bounty. Okay, fine. He does the "I can bring you in warm" or "I can bring you in cold" line, which, okay, we've got that. Then he does his fight, where he primarily decides to use the Darksaber, which, unfortunately, he apparently doesn't know how to use. So, I'm sorry, why would he want to use an untested weapon in this situation when he has plenty of other weapons he could have used? The Darksabers kick ass and all, but learn to use it first. Which actually leads to another thing that I thought was kind of funny. He hurt himself with the Darksaber. No one else has managed to actually miss the plates. The only person who has missed his Beskar plates is himself. Din Djarin is the only person who has actually pierced his plot armor. Congratulations. So, after Commando finishes his fight, he ends up limping into the surface, where we get to see a pretty cool rim world, ring world sort of location, which I'll give some props for that. I liked that. And then, after he goes up with the head, he brings it to the people who wanted the bounty, obviously. Now, here's where I have a little bit of a problem. They don't want to give him the bounty immediately. He says, "I don't care about the money. Just give me the information I want." So, okay, we have that. He eventually gets the information about how to get down to the substrata, I believe it was. Okay. He apparently needed that so that he could get down to where the armorer was. But why would they know how to get to the substrata? And Din needs to know this to get to see the armorer, apparently. But if he knows that the armorer is there, why doesn't he already know how to get there? Because once he gets down to the substrata, then he suddenly sees signs pointing him this way and that. But assuming that he got a note from the armorer telling him that they were there in the first place, why didn't she make sure he knew how to get to the substrata? So, yeah, there's that. Now we have a conversation between Din and the armorer and Paz, I think his name was. We get to learn about the Darksaber and stuff. They talk back and forth. They talk about the Foundling, and during this conversation, we get to hear that loyalty and solidarity is our way. Remember that. It's going to be important.
Opposite of our creed. Loyalty and solidarity are the way.
Now we get to see Mando doing what he frankly should have done a while ago, which is training with the Darksaber before he actually tried to use it in the first place. Now, I've seen some people complain about the fact that the Darksaber is heavy, and I have no problem with that. Lightsabers were supposed to be heavy. They were originally supposed to be two-handed weapons. And this is not a laser sword, it's a lightsaber. A lightsaber has plasma cycling through it. I don't know how much plasma weighs, but I'm pretty sure it's not weightless. So we have that. Now, during this fight, Mando shows that he's not that good with it, and then Paz decides that he wants to fight Mando for it. Okay, he fights Mando for it. Neither one of them are competent in wielding it, and the fight for the Darksaber actually ends up just being whoever isn't using the Darksaber is one with the upper hand. The Darksaber is just so useful, isn't it? So during this fight, we see how heavy it is, and I believe that Mando ends up throwing himself off the edge while swinging it, which was kind of funny. So then after all that, Din wins, and has Paz as basically at knife point and has won the fight. And now after he's won the fight, here's the thing that I find bizarre. After the fight is won, Paz is asked the question about whether he's ever taken his helmet off, or if anyone else has taken it off against his will. Fine. Then Mando is asked this. He ends up telling the truth that yes, he did, and this one slip up, this one time that he took it off, means that he has been excommunicated from the Mandalorian Order because he took his helmet off. I thought that loyalty and solidarity was their way. They seem real loyal here. And as far as I can tell, this clan is down to 3. It's down to 2 now. And if this was so important, why wasn't this the first question that Din was asked when he arrived, instead of it being after the duel? Doesn't seem to be that important to them, except it is, and I was called apostate, and is sent on his way. So, yeah, that's great.
Din Djarin, have you ever removed your helmet?
Oh, right. And Mando asks how he can get redemption. And the armorer tells him that one can only be redeemed in the living waters of the mines of Mandalore. But the mines have been destroyed. And then she says, this is the way. Uh-huh.
Agreed. One may only be redeemed in the living waters beneath the mines of Mandalore.
So now this leads to Mando leaving this ring city slash planet. So he goes to use a commercial liner. All well and good until he goes through a weapon scanner. Then he obviously pings on the weapon scanner, and the robot tells him to disarm and put it into baggage claim. He says no at first, saying weapons are my religion, and he was told nope, you still have to, and he goes okay, and he dumps all of his weaponry into the baggage claim, including the Darksaber. Now, something interesting here is that he actually unloads the ammo from the Whispering Birds or Whispering Bee weapon, which shows that he actually had that ammo on him during that fight earlier when all he used was the Darksaber. So, yeah. Now, during all this, there's some goofy music going on in the background because apparently we're supposed to be amused. However, I'm just sitting here going, really? You're disarming yourself and putting the Darksaber into baggage claim, and then you're going to trust that? Okay, then. And then that was it. Gets on the passenger liner, and sees sees some Rhodians, I believe, and then he's on Tatooine, because of course Tatooine. Okay, so now Mando has arrived on Tatooine, and amazingly, all of his stuff in baggage claim is there just as he expected. So he gets all his weapons back in the Darksaber. Hooray for him! So then he goes and sees his mechanic, Peli. And he sees her, she says that she's going to be to be replacing his Razor Crest with a Naboo starfighter. Okay. There's a reason why bounty hunters like Din Djarin and Boba Fett use gunships and not starfighters. They need to be able to transport cargo from planet to planet after they have gotten their bounty. So yeah, a starfighter, no matter how great it is not the way to go. But okay, we're doing this. So we get to see him and her building this Naboo starfighter up as some kind of muscle car, and then he ends up flying this souped up thing, and it seems obvious at first that he's not used to flying a starship, but whatever. And then to test out how good it steers at high speeds, he brings it through Beggar's Canyon when he's still feeling out the controls. If he made a mistake or it didn't perform as well as he hoped it would perform, splat to both Din and the starfighter. This doesn't seem like a good idea. So, yeah. And that's mostly what I have to say about the Tatooine portion. So yeah, those are most of my thoughts on Book of Boba Fett Episode 5. Apparently, tons of people love it, and that's great for them. I personally think that this was a pretty bad episode, and I hope that most of what I just talked about explains why. Hey, so until next time, this is NetCat. Have a good day. Goodbye. And now, after this is premieres done, I'm planning to talk to some friends about this on our live stream, with at very least one of them highly disagreeing with my take on this. So, I'm going to link the live stream here, I believe. So come join us if you want to see what should be an interesting discussion.